Serhii Sumlenny, Eastern Europe politics expert, founder of the European Resilience Initiative Center. Hello, Serhii.
Hello, and thank you for having invited me today.
Pleasure is all mine. You, as a Ukrainian-German political scientist, tell me, please, Olaf Scholz is really genuinely afraid of that's a nice Stockholm, huh? Genuinely afraid of escalation, or there is maybe a hidden political reason for his timidity, let's put it that way.
Well, I would pay a lot of money to understand what is going on in Olaf Scholz's mind.
Right.
But what we can see, there is nothing good which is going on there. We see a deep crisis within the Social Democratic Party, which Scholz leads. We have seen that people who not just supported Gerhard Schröder, maybe the worst German chancellor before Scholz and after 1949, but who endorsed him as a great social democrat, they come now to the top positions within the Social Democratic Party. The new general secretary of the Social Democrats has provided Gerhard Schröder with an award for a spotless service for the social democracy, and publicly defended him as a person who just had his opinion, very legitimate from his point of view, on Russia and on Ukraine. Now we see that being asked if the participation of the North Korean troops in Russia, in the Russia-Ukrainian war, would change Germany's policy towards delivery of weapons. The press secretary of the government said not at all. And this all in a very short time, this led to an exodus of renowned and well-known social democrats from the party. Now people with their 50 years old time within the party publicly denounce their membership and say they cannot be a member of this party. And much more, in addition to this, in the region of Brandenburg, which is a region around of Berlin, the Social Democrats announced a possible alliance with Bündnis Sarah Wagenknecht, Union of Sarah Wagenknecht, one of two most pro-Russian parties at all in Germany, and the person who demanded as a part of the alliance with her party an agreement that any military help for Ukraine will be immediately stopped and negotiations with Moscow would start. So yes, the Social Democrats are in deep collapse. The party has betrayed Ukraine, openly betrayed Ukraine, and Chancellor Scholz not only witnesses this, but somehow is a part of this shameless development.
You say shameless development, and I clearly understand what you mean. So what's next? You say negotiations with, let's take the worst scenario as it is already happening, has already happened. So what's next? Negotiations with Moscow. Sarah Wagenknecht is going to negotiate with Moscow on what exactly? On how to split up Ukraine or what?
I would say from the point of view of the dreams of Sarah Wagenknecht and others, that would be exactly like this. Discussion with Moscow how to at least allow Russia to swallow a part of Ukraine. I always say that many people in Germany who are in favor of Vladimir Putin and solidarize with him do it because they see that Putin does what they are not allowed to do. They would have gladly probably split Ukraine between two empires like the Nazis and the communists have done once, but they cannot do it. So they at least get a visual sorry, I'm slaughtered now. I tell you. Yeah,
that's right. You say it in German if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, they would gladly split Ukraine between two empires, Germany and Russia, as their ancestors have done 80 years before, but they're not allowed to. So they prefer to observe and obtain some sort of sick pleasure witnessing how Russia does what they dream about but cannot do. And after all, it is not that important what are their real motives. They are endangering not only Ukraine, they're endangering the whole Europe, they're endangering Germany, my country, and their country, of course, too. The real argumentation behind that logic is that Ukraine has obviously, from their perspective, lost the war. Any fight is makes no sense, and Russia will stop at some point and will not go further. And all three cornerstones of this idea, they are proven wrong, because Ukraine successfully fights against Russia with difficulties, with severe difficulties, but still fights, and also on the Russian soil in Kursk. Russia is pretty much defeatable with enough weapons which could be supplied. And Germany still has sent zero long-range missiles and sent very limited amount of other equipment, like how many? 20 Leopard 2 tanks, 30 Leopard 2 tanks, not more. And the same is about the United States. The United States has sent zero F-16 jets to Ukraine. The United States has sent only 1 or 2 Patriot batteries to Ukraine. It's all incomparable with the stockpile of weapons and ammunition in the US. President Zelensky has recently said the US has delivered only 10% of the equipment which has been promised and adopted by the Congress, and still 90% has still never reached Ukraine. So in this situation, of course, more weapons would make much more impact. And the last cornerstone that Russia would stop on the Dnieper River or whatever, who told you so? Vladimir Putin himself said that Russia's borders never end. And every time when Russia says that is our last achievement and we will not go further, they did it. They promised never to annex Crimea. They promised never to annex Donbass. They promised never to attack Ukraine. Now you say they promise they will never attack Poland or the Baltic countries or Germany or France. Why do you believe that this will be the case? Vladimir Putin has clearly made it understand for us. If he says he will never attack any country, this country will be the next.
Well, I don't think that they don't believe in that. They say just they don't care. I mean, they're in Germany. If Russian army would stop somewhere near Berlin, that will be making a difference, maybe or maybe not. Well,
I think if Russian army would stop somewhere near Berlin, those people, or many of them, would come to welcome Russian soldiers with their flags.
Exactly my point.
As they call now for the Russian influence in Germany. Their great surprise would be when they would get arrested by the Russian soldiers, interrogated, tortured, and maybe executed, exactly as the Russians do with some Western volunteers in Donbass, as they have executed an American Great Russia patriot who came to Donbass and tried to fight for Russia. And after several months of his life in Russia-occupied Donbass, he was arrested, tortured as an American spy, and executed. But unfortunately, this hour of revelation and of achieving greater knowledge will come too late for them, and all the harm would have already been done.
In the terrible scenario that we are discussing now, but tell me, is that invitation of Ukraine to NATO, do you believe this will happen after all? Is that a question? Or this is yes or no to you personally? Do you believe this is happening?
I do not believe that invitation of Ukraine to NATO will happen soon. I would love to see it, and I will be the first who will open a bottle of champagne, but I do not believe it will happen. And the reason is very simple, because there are too many countries in the alliance who are either against Ukraine or skeptical towards Ukraine. Just imagine the position of Hungary or Slovakia, which are openly anti-Ukrainian, or then think about the position of Germany, which is very skeptical, or the position of the countries who would like to trade something off, like Turkey maybe, or I don't know, like who wants to get something from the NATO. So the consensus is very hard to be achieved. What can be done? It can be done very simple bilateral agreements between Ukraine and some nations who understand the severity of the situation. The problem here is that the Russia, of course, would try to influence these decisions and say, okay, Latvia, when you send your battalion to Ukraine, you will be a part of the war, and then we will attack you, and then we'll do anything that other countries would say that this attack of Russia against Latvia would not be covered by Article 5 because it happens in relation to Latvia's actions in Ukraine, which is of course nonsense. There is no such clause in the treaty, but Russia will do anything that the diplomats in Berlin or in Paris or in Washington would repeat this very comfortable lie. Because as we know, Article 5 says that the attacked country only may call for support, but the support is not guaranteed. So Russia will try to exhaust this loophole to maximum.
Well, I was about to ask last question about long-range weapon and the restriction. Is it going to be lifted? And if North Koreans that are fighting for Russian occupying army in Ukraine right now, I know this is happening. Pentagon doesn't, but I know. So if this is going to help in any way Ukraine to lift the restrictions, but obviously after all we talked about, this dark scenario that I hope will never happen, but still we're discussing it, I understand that it is almost next to impossible that the countries will allow. However, the Poland wants to, Poland clearly says that it can down Russian missiles. And then NATO says, Stoltenberg said that it is impossible because that will be a NATO involvement into the war. Why Poland has to ask a question, why it needs to ask a question to Stoltenberg or NATO when actually trying to guarantee safety of our own skies.
Now, that is what made me absolutely speechless. And of course, no country needs any permission to shoot down enemy hostile objects from its own sky using its own troops. That's for any country has the air defense. And with the NATO response time of 2 weeks, I think a Russian missile can get married in Poland and get kids before the Polish air defense gets permission from Washington or whatever to shoot down this missile. That is ridiculous. But regarding the long-range missiles and the limitation, I think it's a very crucial question. Because the involvement of North Korean troops is very obvious. We have proofs that North Korean troops are already fighting on Russia's side. And all what we heard from Washington is that the new bans, the new limitations will not be proclaimed for Ukraine. It says nothing about the old bans and old limitations. That means that once again we are playing the same game. Washington or Berlin or NATO in general pulls red lines, which we witness are being crossed by the enemy, and we do nothing. The same happened with Biden's promise of severe consequence for Russia if Russia dares to use chemical weapons in Ukraine. We know there are more than 400 well-documented cases of Russia using chemicals in Ukraine as a warfare, in particular chlorpicrin, and it happens nothing. The same what happened with Obama's red lines in Syria. It's not about like that one administration or another administration is bad or good. It is about the general perception and general position of the West that the West is afraid to be involved into the war, but the hostile enemy, the adversary, Russia, is who decides if you are involved in this war or not, and not your actions or inactions.
I couldn't agree more with you, Serhii. Thank you so very much for your fine speech and position and expertise, and thank you for what you've done while you've been recently in Ukraine.
Thank you so much for this invitation.
Thank you. We talk soon. Goodbye. Serhii Sumlenny was with us, Eastern Europe politics expert, founder of the European Resilience Initiative Centre. Well, that was it for tonight. It was me, Henry Keane, and UATV English, and another attempt to bring the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. please do not be shy. Like, subscribe, and comment. Raise your voice. It matters indeed. Thank you so very much, and see you soon. Goodbye.